Welcome to the third video in our four-part series on how to build your brand as an emerging leader. And in this one, I'm going to address misstep number 3 that might be putting a lid on your career advancement: building a dead-end brand. Now, you'll know that it's time to rebrand yourself if people are coming to you with requests and opportunities and assignments that were exactly the type of stuff that you were so excited to do 2 or 3 years ago, and yet you feel like you've moved beyond. It's time to rebrand and scale up your brand to more of a leadership brand, one that is going to move you forward to that next step of advancement that you're looking for in your career. At a leadership conference a number of years ago, I heard Dr. Rohini Anand speak, and she's the Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer with Sodexo. She said, be authentic about your own leadership style. Don't try and change it, but own it, communicate it, put a brand on it, and put a value on it. So when you're heading out to rebrand yourself, don't start by trying to brand yourself with something that's not really you. Rather, start from that ideal best fit career niche, your sweet spot. Remember the passions, talents, and the value, that thing that you want to most be known for in your career. So start there and communicate that effectively as a brand so that others will start to really see the value that you bring. Now I want to share a couple stories with you, some of my favorite stories of women who've rebranded themselves successfully. And the first is truly one of my favorites. It's about a woman who at the time was a junior level financial analyst, the last person hired into a corporate treasury team before an 18-month hiring freeze. So for all of that time, in her own words, she said, I was low man on the totem pole. And what that meant was that even though she had much higher level, more sophisticated technical and leadership abilities, she was stuck in a job doing very routine day-to-day processing of investment accounts. Vitally important to the day-to-day functioning of her company, but it never gave her an opportunity to showcase that she was capable of so much more. Now, she was able to get her job done so quickly every day that she would reach out to the senior managers on the team and ask if they had anything that she could help them with. And so she quickly built a reputation as someone that they could throw any task or assignment to. So when I asked her, what brand are you currently known for? Here's what she did. She sighed and she said, oh, I'm known as the pooper scooper. I'm the only one here who's willing to roll up their sleeves and dive in and get their hands dirty and clean up these little messes that none of the senior managers can be bothered dealing with. So yeah, I'm the pooper scooper. So I thought, maybe it's time to rebrand and scale that up to more of a leadership brand. So we talked about what she was really known for and how we could scale that up to a more sophisticated, higher level brand. And here's what we came up with: the change agent. So she started to push back against some of the lower level pooper scooping assignments, and in the time she freed up, work with her manager to identify some stretch projects where she got to take on critical business issues that needed someone with a strong change leadership ability. She very quickly became known as someone to bring in whenever you have a critical business assignment that needs a good change leader, and she got promoted not long after as a result. Now as a senior manager herself, she's one who pays it forward to other up-and-comers on the team, helping them scale up and create their next level leadership brand. Next example I have to share with you is someone who was at a more senior level in her career, a program director who had been with her company over 10 years and found that she'd built a reputation as being a jack of all trades but a master of none. Now, she'd come into the company as an engineer and had seen an interesting assignment in product development, so moved over to that team, and it kind of morphed over time into her becoming a specialist in product management. She heard of an interesting quality initiative that was company-wide and raised her hand to lead that. And after that rolled down, she found herself working in the finance department until the IT director rescued her and took her on as a program director in a technology area. So she had almost quite literally worked in every different department in the company. and found she wasn't going to go to her next level in her career and become a senior director and ultimately a vice president unless she was known for truly owning a function or a department. But she couldn't figure out what that was. So in speaking with her, it occurred to me that what she most loved to do was dive into a chaotic situation and carve out an effective strategy, get everyone on board and moving forward. But once they had some traction, she felt ready to move on to her next chaotic situation. So here's the brand that we identified for her. It was to become the go-to person for corporate strategy. Now, taking on that brand, she started to seek out other department heads and offer her services informally whenever they had a strategy conversation to take place. And she soon became the #1 person that you needed to have in the room whenever you were doing a strategy discussion. She'd step up to the whiteboard and facilitate and add tremendous value to that department strategy. When she and I last spoke, she was putting together a proposal to the CEO to say, hey, I think we could really benefit from having a dedicated office of strategy. And by the way, I think I know the ideal person to head it up. So those are some examples of women who've rebranded and scaled up to more of a leadership brand to lead into the career advancement that they were looking for. Krista Thomas, who is a vice president with internet startup FanApps, said to me once, you need to make your brand scalable. Now, Krista herself is a great example of someone who's done just that. When she and I first met, she was a senior manager of marketing who had a very clear vision of the director of marketing she one day wanted to be. And you can be certain that when she was in the role of director of marketing, she had a very clear vision of the vice president she one day wanted to become. She was acting as if she was at that next level at every point in her career. So Krista is someone who has scaled up her brand at certain key points in her career. So I encourage you to ask yourself, where do you want to be 2 years from today or 5 years today in your career? And what's the brand you need to build now in order to make that advancement a possibility? So what do you need to do to scale up in order to advance your career? Your brand needs to evolve at certain key points in your career. Now, when you first come into the corporate workforce at the entry level, it's really important to build a good, strong entry-level brand, something like being known as a valuable contributor, or a team player, or a specialist or go-to person in your area of expertise. However, if you're still known as one of those entry-level brands more than, say, 2 or 3 years into your career, notice how it might actually be holding you back from being perceived as more of a mid-level person. It's time to scale up and establish a mid-level brand for yourself. And you'll notice with these mid-level brands, they start to speak to your ability to make a greater difference than you can make alone. So it's starting to become more of a leadership brand. Mid-level brands could look like being a strategist or an innovator or a subject matter expert, that high-level technical expert in what you do. Or perhaps like my earlier example, it's to be known as a change agent or a people motivator or a project leader. In any case, notice if any of these mid-level brands resonate for you, and you may like to jot down any notes that could form a part of the brand that you'll be building for yourself. Now, you may find that you're already well established with a mid-level brand, and if so, it's time to think about scaling up to more of a senior level brand. Some examples are being a visionary, or one of my favorites, the leader who develops other leaders all around them in the organization. Charismatic leader certainly is an example. They tend to be more rare than the other types. Or perhaps it's to be that rainmaker or the quiet leader, the leader who doesn't say a lot, but they spend most of their time listening. And when they do speak, there's such wisdom there, you want to hang on every word. There's one element, though, that all senior level brands tend to have in common, and it's been my observation that women who break into those senior level executive positions in business get there based on a reputation for delivering business results. So if you aspire to climb into the executive suite, know that at some point a piece of your brand is going to have to be your ability to deliver those bottom line results. It's like the price of entry into those senior level positions. So I encourage you to take a look back over this list and identify any of these that resonate for you that could form a part of your own personal brand statement. One more note too, you'll see that these brands are often stated very concisely. They're just a short, simple sentence, the type of sentence that you could use to refer to yourself, knowing that if you did that continuously over time, people might start to refer to you as that when you're not in the room. And that's when you know that the brand has really taken hold. So see if you can come up with a very concise, simple statement that articulates that next level leadership brand that you want to be known for. If you'd like to take action, here's a couple things I recommend. Number one, I do encourage you to identify the brand that you're currently known for, the brand you had established almost by accident before taking this program. Perhaps you'll ask people who know you well, like trusted colleagues or mentors or your manager. Or if you have the opportunity, you may launch a 360-degree survey as a way of gathering very thorough feedback to understand how you're perceived by others. Then next, take a cut at writing out your own leadership brand statement, that short, concise statement that sums up what you want to be known for at this point in your career.